Rio Hondo Prep football is one of the best kept secrets in all of Southern California. As one of the smallest enrollments year in and year out, the Kares have won 15 CIF championships and have been one of the most successful programs throughout their history. Welcome to A Charge to Keep, the official podcast of Rio Hondo Prep football. And now, bringing you the latest news and content from his alma mater, a CIF champion in 2001 from the class of 2003. Here's your host, Matt Hersema.
What is up, Rio Hondo football fans? Thank you for tuning in to another summer edition of the Charge to Keep podcast as we continue to count down to kickoff August 24th for the season opener. Francis Parker from San Diego comes up to us this year, a Saturday night special, if you will, to start the 2024 season. What a trip it was last year going down there to start the 2023 season. I kind of like early in the season having these road trips, going somewhere special. You're not in school yet, and or maybe you're at the very beginning, and I don't know. There's something, a unique way to kick off the season. I hope we have more road trips, and I know we got a big road trip to the Bay Area in October. Just a fun season ahead. I can't wait, and going to continue the countdown to kickoff, as I mentioned here, with these June episodes. I told you at the beginning of the summer that pretty much we're going to be doing a lot of talking to my former coaches from Kare Youth League that kind of inspired me 25 plus years ago to fall in love with Rio football and obviously football and Kare Youth League. These are men that had a tremendous impact on me, and I'm giving them credit. My Gator coaches, of course, that meant so much to me. But this is just an example of the countless men out there, the countless coaches and leaders that other Rio Hondo Prep guys like myself has had the opportunity to play for. The memories. This isn't just strictly, Gators only type of deal, even though I'm a proud Gator, as you know, from Kare Youth League. And we're talking to all Gator coaches here, guys who coached the Gators at one point. And so this is a tribute again this summer to start things off. I really wish it was something it's not just the great Gator coaches, which I'm very proud of, but this is to all the leaders, all the Kare Youth League coaches who made such an impact on young boys. And, for many of us, we were those young boys looking up to our coaches and then watching Rio Hondo guys play, usually guys that coached us. And then we became those guys. And then afterward, maybe our kids are going back and we're reliving it all. But it's been such an honor for me to connect everyone with this podcast and bring people together and just to, remember the good days, the great lessons, right? And just to kind of continue to promote Rio Hondo Prep. So to kind of get a gauge on where we are, you got to kind of know, where you're coming from or the history of the program. So this podcast, again, A Charge to Keep, is dedicated to Rio Hondo Prep football. It's we want to honor the past and promote the future, right? And obviously give credit to the current team that's going forward. And so we have, again, I think some excellent coverage throughout the season, and it starts in the summer. It starts early, recording these episodes even weeks before these are released, to get you guys ready in June, right after high school graduation. Summer's here, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's time to take it easy. Well, for the Charge to Keep podcast at Rio Hondo Prep football, just want the fans to kind of keep it, stay ready so you don't got to get ready, if you know what I mean, right? Just summer vacations and fun things with the family, but hopefully Rio Hondo Prep football is on the back of your mind. And autumn is coming, guys. Autumn is coming. I know we start in the summer in August. August football is kind of odd, but it's still the autumn. Once we kick off, it's autumn to me, much like, as soon as Memorial Day hits, it's summer to me. So anyway, we've had some great episodes. Obviously talking to Coach Carson after graduation was a lot of fun, kind of laying the land for the summer and obviously me laying out the schedule here for you guys on the podcast. Again, the first few weeks of this is going to be me talking to coaches who made a tremendous impact on me and just kind of learning about them a little bit, what they're doing now, and kind of why Rio Hondo Prep continues to be important to them. And it's an opportunity for me to say thank you for, again, some amazing years, second through sixth grade, technically, in Kare Youth League, with some amazing memories and again, friends that I see to this day who I haven't seen in a while. And we talk about, the good old days and this and that. So anyway, that's what the early part of the summer is. We will eventually transition to content again for the current team and the upcoming season. So don't worry about that. Parents of current players and everything, we are going to get to it. There'll be plenty of Rio Hondo Prep content, past, present, and future throughout the summer. I promise you that. But today we are going to be joined by another former coach of mine. And this is a unique one, right? This individual was the first high school assistant coach that I had in Kare Youth League. Let me explain. For those that don't know, many of the young men who play Rio Hondo Prep football, they also coach in Kare Youth League as assistant coaches. They help out a team, right? And it's in those moments where those little kids, those third, fourth, fifth graders, whatever the age is, they get to go see their coaches play on Friday nights at some point in the season. And it's kind of where this love of Rio Hondo Prep football blossoms, right? And so today on the podcast, we're going to be joined by Wally Ashby. And when I was in second grade, Wally was in high school and playing for the Rio Hondo Prep Cares. And we had Mr. Bollinger as our head coach. And then we had the young, 16, 17-year-old Coach Wally, whatever he was. And when you're a young kid and your assistant coaches in high school, and I don't know, they're just larger than life. They seem so cool, right? They're younger. And then when we get to go to their football games, oh my goodness, you want to talk about that? I mean, I remember my first Rio Hondo Prep football experience in second grade, going to watch Coach Wally play. And it was a blast. I mean, there was a rain game. Wally got hurt in another game. He was on crutches, but these are vivid memories for me. And I think for all of us who eventually played real football, we can remember those moments when we went to watch our assistant coaches play. And things change over time sometimes, but some of the consistencies with Rio Hondo Prep football has been just that. I mean, giving your wristbands out to kids as they come out and mug you, after the game, that was always fun because you did it as a player, or a Kare Youth League guy going to find your favorite players' wristbands and stuff. So this is just the circle that I talk about, right? And for those that don't know it or who haven't experienced it, if you're new to the school or whatever, hey, you're going to see something special on Friday nights that I've seen other high school. I've been around a lot, right? I've been around a lot of high schools being a former referee, and I've seen other high schools promote the youth programs and the Pop Warner, this and that. No one does it like Rio Hondo Prep. No one. I mean, to see all those Kare Youth League kids from the different teams come to support Rio Hondo on a Friday night. And I got to tell you, those players, when they put that helmet on, they know that not just alumni and parents are watching, but those little people, those little kids that look up to them so much, and they play with tremendous honor and passion. And people ask the outsiders, how does Rio Hondo do it? Well, I think that's a big reason, man. I think it's a big reason is the whole watching your coaches play and knowing that, you don't want to let those kids down. The kids that you're coaching, teaching them how to block and tackle. Then you got to go out and show them that you know how to do it, right? So anyway, Wally Ashby on the show today is our featured guest. Wally, again, a class of 93, I believe, coached me in 92, played alongside head coach Mark Carson. So I want to kind of get a feel from Wally about what Mark Carson was like. I have a pretty good idea, but always curious to hear it from a former teammate. Wally has since gone into law enforcement like so many Rio Hondo Prep graduates. So we'll talk maybe a little bit about that and just how much he remembers about the 1992 Gator Bees and this little weird kid, Matt Hersema, who just had all this random sports knowledge, not a ton of skill, but just tried to put all the intelligence to use. And if he remembers any of that at all, and some of my great teammates from the past. But Wally has coached a little bit as well, different schools and things. We'll talk about that. And just, again, a continued supporter of Rio Hondo Prep football, has some great stories and memories of himself that I'm sure we will get into, and just can't wait for this interview. I haven't talked to him a whole lot, usually in passing. Hey, Coach Wally, remember when you coached me? And again, I looked at this man, one of my first heroes as a kid, second grader, watching my coach out on the Rio Hondo Prep gridiron. So I know a lot of you can relate to that. So I thought it'd be a fun way to kick off another podcast here in the summer, get us ready for another season upcoming, talking about kind of the ins and outs that make Rio Hondo Prep football so great. All right, let's now get to it. My first assistant coach, high schools, I don't know how to phrase it exactly, but my first Rio Hondo Prep assistant coach in Kare Youth League, Mr. Wally Ashby. This is going to be fun. Looking forward to it. Let's bring him on the Charge to Keep podcast. Okay, we are now joined by Wally Ashby, who was the first assistant coach in Kare Youth League I ever had. I was a second grader. I believe he was a senior in high school at the time, way back in the fall of 1992. Coach Ashby, what's going on, man? It's good to see you.
Matt, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wally, I say this all the time on the podcast. Any guy who went through Kare Youth League, I think you remember, yeah, your leaders, your older guys, is, coaches, but I don't know, man, there's something about those high school guys who volunteer their time, come out and coach the care teams. Because as a kid, you look up to those guys even more. I don't know if it's because you're closer in age or what, but I remember you quite well, man. And going to watch your football games at Rio was kind of the beginning of really the spark, really, of me falling in love with Rio Hondo Prep football, going to watch Coach Wally play.
Well, that means a lot to me. That wasn't my intention when I was coaching you. I remember you were a really good athlete, and I remember you hit really hard. There was a couple of times where I think we had to change positions for you because you were hurting kids.
Well, that may have been a guy in a different jersey, but I'll take it. No, I loved football. I had played baseball for a couple of years, at Little League or whatever. But when I told my dad, no, there's tackle football. He was all about it. And so, yeah, getting to go tackle kids, it was like, this is okay. Oh, I'm all about it. Great stuff. Yes. And, I mean, we're talking about, second grade sports here, but hey, we had a pretty great team, 3 championships that year. I was told Mr. Bollinger that 3 out of 4 sports, that's not bad.
Hey, we had to represent Glendora with the Gator program. We bleed the blue still.
Absolutely. And I know the names have changed a lot and everything, but there's still a sense of pride. All those Atlantic guys, oh man, there's so many of them. They're very prideful about the Atlantic Pirates and other teams as well. But I don't know. Hey, once a Gator, always a Gator. Hey, I don't know how many Navy SEALs these other guys have. Us Gators, we got a Navy SEAL, Ben Jacobs, last year. Hearing him on the podcast, so there's a sense of pride.
Yeah, chalk one up for the Glendora Gators.
There we go.
I remember I used to love once I graduated and I would see the kids at McDonald's or they were outside a store selling circus tickets in their jerseys. And I used to go up and buy candy and circus tickets from the Gator kids because I was one. And so I would always share stories with them and shake their hands and ask them who their current coaches were. And I went to school with that guy or that girl. And it was fun. It was fun having the royal blue around the city all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I never could figure out why we weren't green being the Gators, but hey, it's okay. That shade of blue, it works just fine. Wally, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, your Rio Hondo Prep football experience, you're coaching other places after high school. You're in law enforcement, and then you've become, I'll say, not fallen back in love. I think there's always been this love there, but with the podcast and everything, it's really brought people more interested, more invested into Rio football. So a lot to get to. I don't know where we'll start, but I think the best way to start, I should say, is let's go back to the very end of last season, a magical season, your 30th year from graduating Rio Hondo Prep football. And it was quite memorable, that 2023 football season last year.
Boy, well, first of all, let me tell you, you do a great job with this podcast, and it's such a great conduit for the people that can't be connected with the program every day. So it's so neat to be able to check in when I have free time and watch the podcast and hear some people that I haven't heard from in a long time. So it has brought a sense of renewal back to me and my family, some of the friends that I still connect with and be able to keep up with. And so, yeah, I mean, what a great season. Those kids really laid it all on the line. Mark and the coaching staff did such a great job. Very proud of those guys. Very proud to say that I graduated from there. And man, what a special season and what a special championship game out there in Long Beach.
I try to tell these guys, on the podcast, like, do you guys feel that, I mean, the current players, we were all kids once too, and maybe they don't feel it at the time, but it seems like they do. There's so many people who we've gone through this program, and we may not have even met these kids, but they're wearing the uniform we once did. It's special. I feel that it's more special, the Rio Hondo Prep alumni base. I think there's some great programs out here in the SGV. I'm not going to knock that at all. I just think it means more to the alumni, to the guys that wore the crest on their helmets, to watch kids do it, especially at a very high level still here in 2024.
Very much so. From a young age, we're taught through KYL, BCL, you play for the name on the front of the jersey, not for the name on the back. And the name on the front never changes. And the names on the back change year to year, season to season, game to game. But the name on the front never changes. And that's what, we're all out there representing. And it's fun to see the names do change, but the system and the heart stays the same. And that's what's fun.
That win last year, and I want to mention, Wally, like, to go in the postseason. People that we beat Charter Oak a few years ago in a postseason. That was awesome.
Yep.
But the argument was, well, Rio could win one game against Arcadia or Arroyo or Charter Oak, but to make a playoff run against a bunch of big public schools, I don't think they have the bodies to do it. I just don't think it's possible. St. Margaret's a private school, very, very talented opponent, but to do that playoff run against schools like Orange, Vista Del Lago, and Santa Monica, for goodness sake, not Santa Monica Christian, Santa Monica High School. I mean, did you ever think Rio Hondo Prep could compete at that high a level that we saw last year?
Honestly, no, I didn't. I thought that at some point they're going to get to a division and they would peak out. And it comes down to just a physicality over a number of weeks. We just don't have the depth that some of these other schools have. I think if I remember right, I think Santa Monica had 3,400 students or 3,600 students, to our 150, 170 or whatever we're at now, our 66 boys, and they were 66. All dressed out. And like you said, you can win a game against an Arcadia or Monrovia or even Charter Oak, but when you have time to prepare and all those things, and when you're going through games back to back to back, like the playoffs are, where the competition just gets tighter and better, that's when the depth usually shows. But as you know, prep players are always in shape. They're always in better shape, whether it's physically or mentally, and that's a credit to the program, to the brotherhood, what it's been.
Yeah. And I do think there's a ceiling for us. I really do. I don't know what division that is. Because, you pull off the miracle last year in Division 9, and it's like, okay, well, let's put them up in a higher division or whatever. So it's just kind of one of the problems to have, I guess, is if you keep winning, the challenge is going to be there more and more. But to see where the Rio Hondo Prep program what it has blossomed to, from 6-man to 8-man to small school 11 to winning Division 9. There was no fluke wins last year in the playoffs. I mean, Rio held its own, and a tribute to those kids, their toughness. And I don't know, it was sweet. It was so sweet seeing those guys play for all of us, and to be so strong, to be so tough. And I don't know, I get caught up in it sometimes, but that wasn't just like, yeah, Rio won. That felt different last year. Am I nuts? Am I nuts for that win? Just that game, it just feeling so much bigger than it was.
I'm right there with you. I think my family, my dad came down in from Utah to come to the game, and he wanted to be there to see it. And it was special to share a hug after the game with him, just to kind of remember old times. And I think that's what it's about. It's about what the program was and where it is now and where it'll go in the future. It's just special. It's just a special school, a special program. It just, it embodies so many different things. And when you put people that are just working together for one common goal, you can see what happens. And like you said, I don't know what the ceiling is going to be and what division we could compete in. It's unrealistic that we could compete with Mater Dei or Mission Viejo or Bishop Amat or, Oaks Christian or any of those larger private schools. But I know no public school wants to play us.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
It'll be interesting. Has the new schedule come out yet?
Yes.
The 25
the new schedule is out. It's a lot of the same teams.
Okay.
But we open against Francis Parker again, San Diego. They come up to us. Mm-hmm. We go to Torrance. We picked up a couple of public schools, I think. There was some issues, I think, with one of our league games as well. But no, the schedule looks okay. We are going up north, up Northern California to Kings Academy. That'll be a nice little fun road trip, to the Bay Area. Nice. But as far as football goes, the schedule, we did pick up, I'm looking at it here, Maranatha.
Okay.
That'll be fun. Marquez from Huntington Park. We do go there this year. And then Bellflower High School. That's a new team on the schedule. So A really good mix of public, private, and I'm already excited. I'm just like, all right, let's go. Let's do this thing again.
Nice. Are the boys on the trip this summer, or are they home?
No, they are home this summer. They were on the trip last year. I think that was a big reason they were so bonded and successful, honestly. But yeah, I did the math with Coach Shintaku while we were recording our podcast. I said 15 championships. I wonder how many were in trip years versus non-trip years. And once you know it, it's right down the middle. 8 championships on trip years and 7 in non-trip years. So fun fact.
That's a very interesting stat. I loved the trips that I got to go on. We went up to Alaska and came back, and I tell you, we were never in better shape. Mr. Drain made sure of that.
Absolutely. I think Mr. Drain, all those coaches, they knew how to get young men.
I remember Mr. Drain, he had a mountain bike he would ride, and he would ride it for, I don't know how long, but he would say, okay, you're going to run down to this intersection, then this intersection, you're going to go down, touch that trash can. And I just remember thinking, man, that's so far away.
Yep. Those summer trips are not all vacation. It was a good time.
But if you wanted the hot shower and the good cereal, you got on your horse.
That's right. Because you were timed, right? Those stopwatches in the showers. All right, go. You got otherwise
trip shower. You learned to put the soap on before you got in.
Absolutely. Towel ready to go, jump in, get in and out. Like you said, there was you could get fined, plus the good cereal ran out. Oh man, you're taking me back now. This is why
we both had hair.
I know, both had hair. That's why, hey, I'm saving time. I'm doing everything I can to save time now when I'm getting in showers and bathrooms. I'm in and out quick. All from Rio Hondo stuff, man. These are the little things that you get trained for, right?
I even joke with my daughter, hey, when we're in a hurry, you need to take a trip shower. Hurry up.
That's perfect. That's oh man. Oh, Wally, where do we start? Let's go back to the beginning for you. Your Kare Youth League, I'll call it origin story, since those seem to be popular these days. How did you find Kare Youth League, the Glendora Gators? It had to be pretty new for you when you were a kid, was as far as the Gators starting up too.
Yeah, I grew up in South Glendora, right on the border of Azusa and Glendora, and I attended Center Junior High in Azusa. And one day we had a substitute teacher by the name of Mike Murphy, and he taught the class right before we got out for lunch. And every lunch, I remember we'd get together and we'd play basketball. And at lunch, he came over and said, I want to play. And I thought he was the coolest substitute teacher ever because he played basketball with us at recess or lunch. And afterwards, he said, hey, you're a good little athlete. You know, do you play football around here, Pop Warner, any of that? I said, no, I've never played. He's like, well, here, I think he gave me a flyer. He said, take this home to your parents and talk to them. And I told my dad, hey, they're starting this tackle football and I want to try it. And he said, well, I can't get off of work early to take you. And he said, well, they have a bus that'll pick me up at the house and take me to the field for practice and then bring me home. And the rest was history. I joined the Glendora Gators under Mr. Mosier at the time. And that was at the beginning of my 8th grade year in 88. So that was the beginning of my Glendora days.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, we didn't grow up too far from each other. Yeah, it's a proud South Glendoran myself down here on Gladstone, Glendora Avenue. But yeah, that's really cool. It sounds very similar, again, to how someone like myself, both my parents worked, and, transportation. When my parents found out they'd pick you up at the school, I was like, and they'll bring you home. They're like, okay, yeah, this is a done deal. Perfect. So the uniqueness that was Kare Youth League. And what do you remember, Wally, about playing ball, not on the schoolyard, playgrounds, but at Kare Youth League now, organized with teams and uniforms and all that stuff?
Yeah, it was the first time I ever played organized sports was in Kare under Mr. Mosier. And it was an adjustment period. I rebelled a little bit about some of the rules and some of the language that could be used. And at one point, Mr. Mosier kicked me out of practice. And I had to call home and get a ride home. And I came back with my tail between my legs and my hands out, saying I apologize and I'm learning and I want to be better. And he put his arm around me and we went into the club meeting. And I remember that club meeting. I don't remember the exact verse that we went over, but it was like he was talking to me. I mean, it impacted my heart, my soul. Mm-hmm. And a couple of weeks later, we took a trip up to Mount Kare, and I always remember how Mr. Mosier was for me. I got my salvation up on that trip, and it really changed my life. I went from being, really rebellious and all that to very accepting. And that's when he said, "Hey, I think you'll be a good fit at our high school, Rio Hondo Prep." Hadn't even heard of it. And when my dad looked into it, he helped work out the finances so that I could get over there. My dad was a single father at the time, and he made the sacrifices to be able to get me into Rio Hondo Prep, and the rest is history.
That's a great story, man. I think a lot of us have similar experiences like that. And yeah, you know what? Had you been stubborn, or maybe somebody may not have told you were wrong. Who knows? You may have walked away from Kare Youth League altogether at that time, but it sounded like one of those just moments you remember vividly. And yeah, thank you for sharing that.
It was it's weird the way things work out, but I was Mr. Murphy was put in that junior high to be able to touch me, and he put me with a coach under Mr. Mosier that wouldn't let my stuff slide, and I needed it at the time, needed it bad.
And that is, again, those are the things. Got a lot of great coaches can call great plays and design things, but it's that one-on-one kind of interaction with kids and in high school, even student athletes, that makes Rio and Kare different. It's just different, and in a good way, in a special way. So I love hearing stories like that. I think a lot of people do here on the podcast. And you go into Rio Hondo Prep. You didn't play organized sports until later. You go into that, and then Rio Hondo Prep. I mean, let's be honest, a very different experience, and it takes some getting used to. Was it some growing pains or tough adjustments for you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was a good athlete until I stepped on the field and I saw guys like Mike Whiteside and Pete Clark and John Carrillo and Rick Johnson and Todd Carson, and I said, "Holy cow, these guys are moving in a different gear." And it was shocking. I not that I was the world's best athlete in Kare Youth League, but I was good. But then I got to prep and I was humbled quickly. Mike Whiteside and Jeff Fairley could glide, and they did things on the field, on the court, on the diamond that I didn't even stuff I saw on ESPN. That's the way I looked at it.
Yeah, you're basically the classes, when you're the freshmen, sophomores in general, there are exceptions, but yeah, you're the JV guys and the varsity. Yeah, you were in Rio at a time. That team, we've talked about them a lot. You mentioned all their names. That 90 football team, 1991 basketball team. Yeah, I could see how you would just have your jaw drop. I wanted to see those guys play so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys were great athletes. They were great teammates, great mentors. So many of those guys, even though they were dominating their side, they took time to mentor our young guys. Myself and Mark Carson and Tim Lunny and Carl Graham, Memo Chavez, the whole bunch of us that came through kind of under their tutelage. And that's why we were able to have a little bit of success once they left, that we filled those shoes next. Nothing on their level. Please don't get that twisted. But we carried the torch at least.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I had just missed watching those guys as a youngster, and got to see you guys playing ball. You mentioned Mark Carson, the current head coach of the Rio Hondo Prep Cares, won his first championship last year, which I was very thrilled for him. I asked him briefly about you, telling him I was recording with you, and he said, Mark Carson says, Wally was always down to compete no matter the sport. He was a basketball guy, a really good basketball guy, but still competed in football like it meant the same. So that's your former teammate, Mark Carson. Now I got to ask you, Wally, we all hear Coach Carson weekly on this podcast, playing alongside HCMC, Coach Mark Carson. What was that like back in high school?
Mark was he was a good athlete, not great, but his IQ was off the charts. And I knew that Mark was going to be special when he would be the only person on the team that would ask coaches why. Why are we doing this? Why are we running this? Why are we practicing this? And I remember thinking, let's just get it. Let's just get the drill done. Let's just get it, But he wanted to know the why. And, it wasn't until years later when I started coaching that I understood why he was asking the why. And I knew back then that he was going to be special as far as how he was going to go about leading young men. He led us the best he could back then. And it's just, those attributes that you can see at a young age, and they just blossom and bloomed. And, he's he's a great story. And his story's not even done. He's just still beginning. He's my age, and so he's got many, many, many teams and seasons to go, and look forward to that. And I consider him a good friend still.
So it sounds like zero surprise on your end that Mark is the head football coach at Rio Hondo Prep.
No, it's kind of like saying Mr. Lunny going into teaching is a surprise.
Yeah, there's only been 4 head coaches, Rio Hondo Prep football, and even there hasn't even really been that many assistants. I always like talking about the older coaches like Mr. Lunny, Mr. Johnson, just because they've passed and they set the tone. They set the foundation and impacted us quite a bit. You got any great Mr. Johnson or Lunny stories for us from your days?
Nothing that sticks out. I mean, Mr. Johnson was always great to me and my dad. He really took us in. It was tough because I came in, they had went on the trip, and then I was still in Kare Youth League. So when they got back, that was my freshman year and the first time I really got to meet him. And so he was really gracious in inoculating me into the program and whatnot. I remember thinking, hey, man, he's so mean. But it wasn't, as you get older and you get more experience, you realize why, and I same thing I thought with all of the guys, all the coaches,
Yeah. They had an edge to them for sure. And as a kid, even junior high, and you're like, man, okay, it's a little intimidating. But no, it was a tough love, I think, with all those guys. And Rio Hondo Prep football would not be where it is today without their impact. And I know
the dean of 8-man football, Randall Johnson.
That's right. Even I said that on another podcast. No matter, everyone at CIF knew who he was and had just nothing but admiration for him. So again, this podcast is about honor, the current team and the future, but we got to talk about the past. We got to honor the past every chance we get, because this is there's a great history to this program that is Rio Hondo Prep football. What did you play in football? I know you're a big time basketball scorer, but as far as football goes, what were your positions?
I played running back. I was a tailback. I was all CIF my senior year. I think there was 2 or 3 of us on the team that got awards that year. I think Carl Graham was a tight end, and we had another, maybe somebody made it on defense, I think, that year. But basketball was my forte. That was kind of what I played. It was what I played at the park in between church and when we had to go back to care. So it's just what I fell in love with, and kind of what I hang my hat on.
Yeah, for sure. And Glendora, great basketball town, great history there. Dalton Park, a lot of great pickup games over there back in the day, right?
That's where I cut my teeth. Yep.
That's right, man. You want to compete in some basketball. That's a place to be for sure. I remember, I think it was 2 of your games. Again, second grade, we go to outings, team outing, watch Coach Wally. There was one game, unfortunately, I just remember you in crutches. You got hurt. And we were there to watch you, and we were bummed out that you got banged up. So I remember that. But the main one I remember, and I've talked to Coach Carson about this quite a bit, is the downpour against Poly at home. That pouring rain. We kicked field goals at halftime. It was so cool. I think we lost to Poly, unfortunately, but pouring rain at Kare Field, one of my first experiences as a little kid watching Rio football. Do you remember that game?
I do. I remember being on the bottom of a pile and almost drowning.
Coach Carson said you guys in the locker room, and there was this flash, and he thought someone was taking a picture, but it was lightning or whatever. So, downpour that was my first Rio Poly game. Yeah, the pouring rain there at Kare Field, and again, getting to watch you. So you were larger than life to us, Coach Wally. Great watching you play, and then turn right around on Saturday and go play ball. So that's something that's, again, unique and special.
It's the character building. It's the character building. You could get beat up on Friday night. You go home, you hydrate, you sleep, you get up Saturday morning, bright and early, and you go do your field work. You get the courts ready, you get the fields ready. You get there, you get your coaching in, and that's no different than having to go to work now for me. It was instilled in us at such a young age. When I'm tired at work, I still got to go to work the next day. When I'm tired of, being a husband or being a father, you still have to do those things. And that's, those are the things that were ingrained in us very early. And that's, why so many of our guys that have graduated from prep go on to be successful things, whether they're first responders or they're in the military like Bill Lee, or Navy SEALs like the gentleman you brought up earlier. It's those traits that were taught to us and pounded into us from a young age.
Yeah, again, it's like the Mr. Miyagi thing, right? You don't realize you're painting the fence or whatever. What's the big deal? But no, you're learning lessons that just cannot be simulated any other way. And it's with high school young men. We were all that guy once. Yeah, you want to sleep in, you're bruised, you're beat up, but yeah, there's some little kids that are depending on you to paint their field and to coach them up, carry the equipment. So I always want to give the Rio Hondo Prep student athletes praise and also to acknowledge them and their greatness and everything. But I don't know. So in some ways with Rio Hondo Prep, as good as you might be, based off of what you just said, it's kind of like this constant, like, hey, it's not about you. It's not about you. You're really good. You're this great athlete, but it's about all of us. And I think to your analogy with the front jersey and the back of the jersey, that's something that just hasn't changed that much over time. I don't think coaching is mandatory anymore, but most of the guys do it. And I think, again, it's a really big character building thing.
I tell you what, those are some of my favorite moments, to coaching the young kids. And as I got out of Rio Hondo Prep and started moving on to my adult life, getting back into coaching, I always fell back to the lessons that I learned, as a Kare, and how I taught, the programs, the Gators and some of those other things. And you fall in love with it, and it's something that when that coaching bug bites you, it's forever.
Yeah. You started with some young Gator kids there in Glendora at Wingate Park. But before I move on to your other coaching stuff, how about Wingate Park, man? The memories of that place, the all dirt parking lot. There was always the creek, but it didn't have all these bridges and nice things there. Now our old club rooms, the sheds and everything. I mean, It's still Wingate Park. It's been upgraded and things, but I don't know. That was a special place for kids, at least for me growing up. The old Wingate Park.
Oh yeah, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on that field. And I remember they went through a little expansion. They put in new basketball courts at one point and put in a skating rink. And that place will always hold a fond place in my heart.
I drive by it. If I have the opportunity, I'm driving south or something, I always try to drive by. It just kind of cheers me up, makes me smile a little bit, and just like, man, I can't believe it was so long ago. But
yeah, I remember we used to cross the creek to get to Mark's house. He grew up just on the other side there, and there were a lot of Friday nights spent at his house, because then I could just sleep in about 20 minutes longer and then just walk from his house to morning work. And so his family was gracious enough to adopt me a handful of Friday nights.
Oh man, that's what it's all about right there. I love that stuff. That is what it's all about. So after coaching, us youngsters on the Gators and graduating and, going through Rio Hondo, you then you spent some time coaching some local high schools, girls basketball specifically, had quite a bit of success. Talk to me about kind of where you coach and what that was like for you. You did it for quite some time.
I did. Like I said, the coaching bug gets in you and it's forever. And I was attending Citrus College, tried out for their basketball team and didn't make it. And I met a guy who was coaching at St. Lucy's High School in Glendora at the time, and he needed an assistant coach. And he said, I like how fundamental you are. Can you come up and help teach my girls? And at 19 years old, I was coaching at the all-girls private school up the hill there. And we had a good little run. We went to the CIF championship in 97. And I coached there for about 6 years before going over to Bishop Amat in 99.
Huge program there. Great.
Yep.
I mean, they're good in a lot of things, but girls basketball specifically under Richard Ward, Coach Ward coached there a long time. So you were sitting alongside him on the bench.
Yeah, he's a really, really good friend of mine. I consider him a mentor still. He brought me in. I coached their JV team and was an assistant on the varsity team for about 9 years. He's a former BCL guy, and all of his kids came through the KYL program. So a lot of the same philosophies that Prep is teaching is being taught at Amat or now at Salle. But back then, the the accountability that we were putting on the kids even back then is similar to what prep does with their kids. And so we had a great run there. We won 3 CIF championships in my tenure there. We won 3 in a row. We won 2 state championships. And in 1996, in 2006, we finished 35-0, number 6 in the country, and had a good run. It was we opened up a new gym, and we sent a lot of girls off to Division I colleges, and that was very fulfilling. Funny story, or not funny, but a happy story. In our first CIF championship game, we were playing at the Pyramid in Long Beach, and I had been dating my wife for about 10 years to that point, and we had been living together for 2 or 3, so it was time. So at halftime of the CIF championship game, I called her down to half court, and she comes down out of the bleachers like, "What's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong?" So I grab her hand, walk out to half court, drop down on a knee, and say, "Hey, we're going to get 2 rings tonight. Here's one for you, and I'll get mine later." And she said yes, and the crowd all stood on their feet because they were surprised. And what are we, 18 years later now? So going strong.
Coach Ashby. That's a great
Yes.
story. We didn't even pregame that. That was awesome. Outstanding. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. Just look at you. Wow.
Yep.
That's so, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's fantastic.
So then
Congratulations.
in 2006, my wife said, "Hey, you need to get a real job. You need to get a pension." And I said, "Okay." And that's when I got into her family gig. Her 3 older brothers were all in law enforcement, and they said, "Hey, you're athletic and young still. Why don't you get into this gig?" And I applied at a bunch of places, but of course, my heart was drawn back to Arcadia, and that's where I've been for the last 18 years now.
It feels, again, I don't know if someone's playing chess upstairs or whatever it is. It feels like there's definitely some providence rolling in your life. You get, of all places, Arcadia, where again you played sports at Rio Hondo Prep. You get set up there in law enforcement, Arcadia Police Department. I want to ask you, Wally, we've kind of touched on it, but there have been a lot of Rio Hondo Prep alumni who've gotten into law enforcement and nursing and firefighters as well. But to speak to your profession now as a police officer, like, why do you think police officer is such a good fit for so many like Rio Hondo Prep graduates?
For a couple of reasons. One, I think we're used to having the nobility or the feeling of wanting to do something as a team. I had an opportunity. I could have went to LAPD or the Sheriff's Department, these larger agencies that have thousands of people in their agencies. But I chose Arcadia. We got about 75 officers, and I loved the team aspect of it. Going back to, I know who I'm working with because we have a relationship, and I know their family, I know their kids, I know their wife, I know what kind of car they drive. And that was what drew me to that aspect of being on a team, but in a team, and that's again, going back to the prep thing. It was never I, it was we, and, playing for the name on the front, the badge, that it all kind of parlayed into it to me. And then I'd say the second half of that is prep does such a good job of preparing us for the outside world, or, after high school, with the candy sales and the advertisement sales and the talking to people. I'm comfortable in having a conversation with somebody. Somebody, once joked that I could sell water to an Eskimo because of the lessons that we learned by having people tell us no 1,000 times at a business. They don't want to buy an ad, but it's that one that we went into that we convinced them to buy an ad, or maybe go buy a little bit bigger one, and all that stuff. It's really no different than when I come into contact with a bad guy and I can try to talk him into handcuffs instead of having to beat him up or use force or something like that. So I think it's those tools that prep and Rio Hondo have kind of pounded into us from day one that allows it to translate into first responders and nurses and, prominent business people that are out here now. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. When I hear certain guys from Rio Hondo, oh, he's a police officer. Every single time I go immediately, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see him doing that. He's perfect for that. Just basically, just a few off the, Cody Cowell, Rod Bazuzzi,
Yes,
I believe John Carrillo, and then former teammate of yours, I believe Ken Lee, right? He
Yes.
for a brief time, he was a police. You guys were teammates on the force too, a little bit.
Yeah. Ken lateraled over from a separate department, and he was looking to get a little closer back out here with his parents' health and stuff. And so he reached out, and I told him we had an opportunity. So I vouched for him. He got into Arcadia, and I think he spent about 7 or 8 years with us before heading up to Idaho. But I still consider Ken the whole Lee family in general. I mean, they were great to me. John was a really good friend. Bill, to this day, whenever I see him, it's big hugs, coming from that guy. And Ken and I, we've always been really tight. So,
well, I have this vision now that Arcadia PD, Wally Ashby, I don't know. Our next big road trip, I think we need, we need Wally Ashby with the sirens out in front, leading the bus, a little police escort. What do you think, man?
I think that'd be great. When I was coaching LaSalle about 4 years ago, we had an opportunity to play in the state championship game. So I called in a couple of favors, and we got a police escort from the high school on the 210 freeway to about the 134. So the kids really dug that. And I tell you what, if they make the state, or they make the championship game again, I will vouch. I will do a police escort from the fields to the championship game site.
Okay, you heard it, guys. You Rio Hondo current team guys. We got it locked in for you. Now you just got to do the hard work, right? I believe Santa Monica PD got us to the freeway. I think I heard that from someone. We got to the freeway, got a little escort after the game last year. But
I guess you needed it to be able to see through the fog, huh?
Oh my goodness, yeah, right. Oh my goodness. How about we'll go back to that game a little bit. I know that the viewing and everything was awful. Don't get me started, but man, Mustaine to Tafflinger. I mean, that pass on 4th down, Nate Shine knocking down the two. I mean, just there's so many moments from that game that I will remember forever. And I'll just remember the feeling in my heart and stomach of like, you can't put it into words really. It's still as surreal that happened last year.
I think what made it so powerful was that you had a good villain on the other side. I mean, that team was awesome. That quarterback, that receiver, I forget his name off the top of my head, but holy cow, does that kid have some hands. Big, fast, strong, and they slung it around. And, hey, we found a way to be 1 point better.
Yeah, just a little. That's all you needed, man. Just a little bit better. And you know what? We got
credit to Mark and the coaches, all season long, coming up with the different game plans for the different teams that they were playing, whether it was running the ball, 15, 18, 20 times in a row, or spreading them out and passing it around. But the defense was solid all year. So nothing but love and admiration and credit to those coaches that put in hours and hours and hours that probably go unlooked at. But from an alumni to those guys, hey, thank you for everything that you put in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for all that. And yeah, that's what's fun to me. Like, I'm sure you have your favorite teams out there, professional or college or whatever. We all do, but I don't know. There's something about the Rio success that speaks. It's bigger to me. Yeah. Like I've seen the Lakers, I've seen the Rams, the Dodgers. Yeah, it's great. I'm a diehard with some of these things, but when Rio Hondo's winning, man, I don't know. There's no better feeling because it used to be you, and now these kids, you're kind of living through them, but you're also like, they're representing me. I don't know. It's just more special to me. What do you think?
It goes back to, kind of what we talked about earlier, just the sense of pride, knowing that, you've run those hills and that you've ran that play, and that, you can put yourself in that face mask and picture that play as if you were, doing it yourself. I think that's what lends to the feeling of been there, done that, and let's keep it going together. I know Duke basketball talks about their brotherhood, but you could say the same for prep football.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, man. It's just it's an honor to do the podcast and to just continue to. All I do is hit play sometimes, man. I'm just like, hey, it all speaks for itself. Like talking to you, talking to various people about it. So, any fun interactions with as a police officer with Rio Hondo Prep? I don't know if you're able to sneak down to games on Friday nights, or maybe if you've interacted with some Rio Hondo Prep people or coaches out in public while in uniform. And any good stories for us?
Yeah, I got one story. About 3-4 years ago, I was working patrol, and I was driving down Live Oak, and I saw a group of kids. They were all in their Rio Hondo baseball jerseys and their hats backwards, and there were a couple of softball players with them, and there was probably 6 or 8 of them jumped into one truck at 7-Eleven, and they were all piled on top of each other. And I knew what they were doing. They were going up after practice or in between gigs to go get their Slurpees or whatnot. And, they were just going around the corner. So I thought, you know what, let me watch them, make sure nothing happens to them. Cause there was way too many people for not enough seatbelts. So I stood behind them, let them get down onto Farna. I figured, okay, now's the best time. So I lit them up. I walked up to the car and they're all freaking out. They're scared. And there's, guy sitting on somebody's lap, a girl sitting on somebody's lap. And, they realize that they're busted. There's nothing that they could say. And I tell the driver to roll down the window and he's looking at me with a petrified look. And I say, stern as I can, I look at him right in his eye and I said, I heard you talking on Quiet Street. And he looked at me like I had two heads. But I just told him, listen, I'm a prep, I'm a care. Please, let's make sure we take 2 cars in the future. Let's not pile everybody in here like this. And he wiped the sweat off his brow and went on his way. But I got back into my car and chuckled to myself on that one. So that was a fun one.
They lucked out. It was a Rio Hondo Prep alumni. Let me tell you, that's hilarious. Yeah. You were talking on Quiet Street, and you just know the tension had to. That is beautiful, and everybody.
And then I had an opportunity once they were running a function for the homecoming game. They needed a police car to bring down one of the princesses that were to be nominated, and so that was fun to be able to roll down there in a police car and guide one of the princesses in for one of the halftime extravaganzas they were doing. So those are the things that I really enjoy, staying connected with Rio Hondo.
Yeah, man. Any way you can. That is beautiful. And for those that don't know, the whole Quiet Street thing, Farna Avenue, as a respect to all our neighbors. Yeah, I know. It's still going. I mean, the buses that roll down there. I mean, if it's Quiet Street, if you're a busload of kids at Rio, it's dead silence from the moment you turn on Farna until you hit the driveway. It's just a tradition that has gone on for many years. There's a little respect to the neighbors there, and that's hilarious.
I saw you talking on Quiet Street.
I can't get over that. That's so funny. I really am curious who those kids were. I wonder if they'll step forward and say what they were doing. That's probably a great lesson for them. Again, life is full of lessons like that. That's really funny. I can't get over that. It's so good. Wally, I always ask guys, and you've kind of touched on it already, but it's something that we try to do on the podcast over and over and over. We are trying to, people want to understand, why is Rio Hondo Prep? How do they do it? I don't know how you guys do it. And I always I do my best on the podcast to get it out there. But as far as Rio Hondo Prep football, why is it special? Why is it successful? Yes, but why is it special? Why is it unique? And why is it something that, you really can't understand? You have to experience, unless we're talking about it here on the podcast. What makes Rio Hondo Prep football so special?
Man, that's a really tough question. But I think what makes it most special is that the kids that go to Rio Hondo Prep and that are playing in prep football know what that is about, and it's a dedication to just that. They're not worried about trying to make it to the next level. They're not worried about setting up their podcast or an NIL deal or, trying to get a scholarship somewhere. They understand that from Kare Youth League on to when you graduate, crossing that stage, getting your diploma, what the expectation is and what the dedication is going to take to get to that step. And it's a sole focus. And what the coaches and the staff do is it's a single guided task to get done. And that's what is required. And I think, you might have other schools that have success, Bishop Amat football or Modern Day football or St. John Bosco football, great athletes. I'm not taking anything away from them. But if you were to take, their bottom 66 and say, okay, now you're going to compete in a season, I don't know if they could have the season that Prep had. And it's because of all the little things that it takes to be successful on what Rio Hondo Prep requires of them and that dedication that it takes.
Yeah. I mean, that's really well said. And you have a unique perspective on it. Again, having coached other places, I try to bring on, opposing coaches whenever we can, whenever we have a connection. Coach Deshaun Burns, I had him on. I know him and Coach Ward were kind of close there. I think you guys, that was one of the first times I saw you out at a game was at Linfield Christian, but You have a unique perspective, having coached other places, being successful at other places. And I don't want to ever get into that comparison game, why Rio is this and they're not. But again, it's just to throw it out there that, hey, Rio Hondo is a very special place. You coach at some incredible places, St. Lucy's, Bishop Amat, and all LaSalle. I mean, these are proud institutions, but Rio is, it's hard to explain. We're trying here on the podcast. Rio's special, Rio's different, Rio's unique.
Yeah. I don't think it goes back to the leadership too. It goes back to Mark and everything that the program stands for, and it being led from the top down. You got so many people that contribute to what the sole focus of just winning is, and developing. And that might be the other key too, is that they do a phenomenal job of bringing kids from all over the area that are marginal athletes, but they have success at doing what they are required to do, whether it's an offensive lineman to block, or it's a linebacker to tackle, or if it's a defensive back that weighs 110 pounds to break up a 6'3" wide receiver. Those kids know what their job is, and they do just that. No more, no less. They just get their job done. And when, 11 people on a field all work together, man, they form a really strong fist, and they can punch people in the mouth.
Oof. Yeah. David with that slingshot, man. It's Rio Hondo Prep football is always going to have that chip, I think, on their shoulder, even with the success, and the history speaks for itself. But no matter what happens, I think Rio Hondo Prep is best when it has that chip. Like, no, you guys, you can't do it. You're too small. That's why I love it. Honestly, it's kind of like, okay, number 1 seed last year in the Division 9, but you still felt like the underdog in every game, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
It goes back to the fundamentals that were taught to us from a young age. When I was in Kare Youth League, rolled right into Rio Hondo Prep, and that's what I'm preaching to my daughter. That's what I preach to the kids that I currently coach, and it goes out to a lot of different things too. One of my best friends in life is Dave Lemons. He's down at Edison High School. I think he's coaching his 19th year of boys tennis, and I think he just stopped coaching girls tennis 16 or 17 years this year. But he does a phenomenal job with that program down there. He has an opportunity to take those kids up to Mount Care in the summer, and does some of the stuff that we used to do with that group. And so, it's all of those things that we learned, and the accountability that we're teaching, goes hand in hand. And so he does a great job with the Edison tennis program. We're trying to do the same thing with the LaSalle Lancer basketball program. And, it all kind of goes back to the BCL and the KYL teachings.
Yeah. Again, it's a full circle. It never ends, and it's cool. You're back to coaching after the wife said, "Hey, get a regular job." Took some time off, but now you're back at it on top of your police work.
Yeah, I took 15 years in between, and Richard Ward, we remained really good friends, and his son graduated from Bishop Amat and then went off to college. And when he got back from college, he got offered the head coaching job at LaSalle, and I happened to bump into Rich one day, and he said, "Hey, it's not going to get out yet, but they're going to announce that Scott's going to be the coach here in the next couple of days." And I said, "Oh, that's great. That's my wife's alma mater. My wife was the first graduating class from girls up at LaSalle." And I came home and said, "Hey, Rich and Scott are going to be coaching up at LaSalle." And Rich called me the next day and said, "Hey, why don't you coach with us?" And I said, I got a full-time gig now. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to assist Scott, so we don't need a full-time assistant. So if you could get up there as much as you can." And I ran it by the wife, and she said, "All right, let's do it." And 6 years, 5 seasons, 6 years later. So
yeah, that's again. There's someone up there direct. I mean, to full circle, her alma mater. I mean, it's just, I don't know. People that don't understand what's going on, the writing on the wall. It's just funny. Wally, you seem like you've lived a blessed life, man, and proud to call you a Rio Hondo Prep alumni. The brotherhood, it still runs strong, regardless of. There we go. Look at that Rio Hondo Prep baseball uniform. Pull that out of the closet, huh? 56. Number
there's no
56.
way it fits anymore.
Hey, you need to frame that thing, man. Wally Ashby on the back. Wow, 50 Lawrence Taylor number, huh, for baseball.
56, because somebody had 24. I was 24 for 3 years. I think somebody else had it. A senior had it in baseball. So,
wow, and then so So 56 of all things. Well, hey, whatever. Unique. I love it. 24, huh? Love that. 24, Wally's World. And basketball was your thing. I mean, I think Mark told me in basketball, this is random thoughts and information here. He said you guys played a playoff game. I want to say like Bel Air, and he missed a shot in the playoffs at the buzzer, I think, or something like that.
That's one of my great life's regrets.
Oh no.
We were playing. We were average. I think we were probably 5 or 6 games over 500 going into the playoffs, and I think we finished second or third in the prep league that year. But we got hot in the playoffs. We upset a couple of teams. Carl Graham started playing like a 6'4" beast that he was. Mark
massive.
hit some great shots. Memo Chavez hit some big shots. Mark was one of our floor leaders defensively and offensively. Mr. Drain did a spectacular job of coaching and preparing us. And we went into the semifinals playing against Rolling Hills Prep, who was the number 1 seed. And I think they were 29-2 at the time. And we were, like I said, 24-7, something, or no, excuse me, like 17-7, something like that going in. So we were heavy underdogs, and they were huge. They were 6'5", 6'4", 6'6", then big guards, very talented. But back then they didn't have a shot clock. So we got about a 10-point lead, and we were working the ball around and taking minutes off of the clock. 4 quarters, doing a great job. We were making free throws when they fouled us. But they took a 1-point lead with about 11 seconds left, and we called timeout. Mr. Drain, used all his coaching attributes to get me the ball and kind of spread out. And I broke the press, went down on up for a layup, and I jumped and I split 2 big guys and went in for a layup. And instead of shooting it underhand and kissing it off the glass, I was going so fast trying to beat the clock, kind of like Tyus Edney with UCLA, that I was going so fast my little Barney Rubble feet couldn't keep up. And instead of kissing it off the glass, I shot it off the glass, and it hit the backboard, the front of the rim, the back of the rim, the front of the rim, the backboard, spun around, popped out, and we lost by 1.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. We love football, but
I think
man,
the most frustrating thing about that was,
basketball,
other than missing the shot, was the team that they went to play in the championship game. We had beat in a tournament earlier in the year and beat them up pretty good. So I felt pretty confident that had we just got to that championship game, we would have raised the first basketball banner. One of life's greatest regrets.
Oh, hey, well, life goes on, and now we just we cheer for them. But basketball playoff games. Oh, those are so many good memories. So much intensity.
Going back to and I know this plays because we talk about the history of Rio Hondo and prep football, but Todd Carson and Rick Johnson, they were so influential to me watching them play basketball. And I don't know if you had an opportunity to ever watch them. You had these 2 nonchalant white guys, pasty white, that you would look at them and you would say, there's no way this guy's ever going to score on me. And you would watch them score and steal the ball and take charges and get offensive rebounds against bigger, talented, faster athletes. And man, they were so influential for me growing up. I just wanted to emulate that. Todd Carson once told me, and I just stopped doing it a couple of years ago, but I need to go back to it. He told me, you always carry a basketball and a pair of shoes because you never know what park you're going to drive by and see who's there.
Yep. That was Todd. And I was nowhere near his skill, but yeah.
That guy taught me so much more basketball than basketball, if that makes sense. There's drills, there's jump stops, and, how to shoot and this and that. But he was so unconventional that, I wish I could pick and pluck some of his stuff that went in his brain of how well he played. I really admired both of them so much.
Oh man, you play pickup games with those guys, and they made you they made you better. You're like, wait, how'd you throw me that pass or whatever? I look good out here next to you guys. Thanks, man. Yeah. Great teammates, man. Oh, such good times. Yeah, I love basketball. Hopefully our basketball teams get a little better here, and we can talk some Rio basketball too here on the podcast. But Wally, this has been a pleasure. I appreciate your time, and thank you not only for coaching me back, when I was 7 years old, but also for your service, man. Nothing but love and support for law enforcement here on my end, and just appreciate what you do, and also continuing to coach. That's a beautiful thing, man. I'm glad you're doing that, and sounds like God has really worked some things out in your life, man. I got to say, you shared some great stories with us that kind of speak to all of us and kind of how life works sometimes.
I don't know why, but I just know, sometimes you just have to let whoever take the wheel and just kind of go along for the ride. And I've been blessed. My wife is healthy. My daughter is healthy. I'm healthy-ish. And that's all that really matters.
Amen to that. Well, hey, we need to meet up in Glendora sometime, grab a bite wherever you want, the hat, some Glendora establishment just for good old times and to, just have another conversation like today. Thanks so much,
Well, you
Wally.
can treat to Grand Burger or Flappy Jacks anytime.
Oh, now we're talking. Hey, I'm there. You name the place, I'm there, man. Hey, if not, we'll see you at a real game real soon.
Thank you very much, man. And keep up the great job with this podcast. It really means a lot to us, and you do a great job with it. And thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
All right. See you soon, Wally. Well, that was a lot of fun chatting with Coach Wally Ashby, my first ever assistant coach for the Glendora Gators there. Man, yeah, I'm taking you up on that offer, or you take me up on my offer there. Well, he threw out Flappy Jacks to me. A Glendora staple. We got to go there sometime for some pancakes or something. But great time chatting RHP football, going down memory lane with Wally Ashby, and now the continued success not only in coaching but of course law enforcement. God bless the badge and everyone wearing blue out there, and the thankless job that they do keeping us all safe and doing the Lord's work, if you will. So thank you for that very much. And it's really cool. The stories, the interactions, the memories, this is what the podcast is all about. And throughout the summer, hearing stuff like this to kind of get us in the right frame of mind. It's like a slow climb right into the kickoff, the countdown, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, when you hit late July, it's like, oh man, we're less than a month away. Let's get this thing going. Let's kick off Rio football and get back into the swing of things. So Wally Ashby, love you, man. Appreciate it. I mean it so much. It was an honor watching you wear the red, white, and black back in the day as a young Gator, and looking up to you and thinking to myself, I want to do that someday. And little did I know, 30 years from then, or so, 32 years to be specific, I'd be running a podcast regarding Rio Hondo Prep sports and football. It's weird how life works sometimes. And as you heard Wally there mention a couple different times, yeah, if you really look around and ask the question why, like Coach Carson said when he was a player, you'll understand that God's working in your life. I think in odd ways that you never thought possible or didn't think would ever happen. And I've seen a lot of that in my life personally. And it's fun to come on here on the podcast and just hear from other people who, going through different things or shared their experiences. It's a blessing. It really is. People thank me all the time for this, but honestly, it's a great joy to me to be able to come on here and to be that bridge for people, alumni and families and players and parents, and just to get it out there. It's one of the great programs in the San Gabriel Valley. It's one of the great stories, really. And again, high school experiences. For those new to Rio Hondo or just checking this out, you will not get a better high school experience than going to Rio Hondo Prep and being a part of not just a great football program, but a great community. And the many lessons that you learn that you don't know it at the time, like Mr. Miyagi and Daniel LaRusso, right? And the Karate Kid. You don't know it at the time what you're learning, but it all does add up, and it does mean a lot. So this has been fun talking to my former coaches. I'm going to try to get a few more on here just to kind of reminisce, talk about the good old days, and also just thank them for really lighting that spark of the passion for Rio Hondo Prep football so many years ago, and for being my coach. We all look to our parents, families, and things, but there's something about your coach. Your coach from when you're a kid or you're in high school, and I've mentioned Mr. Drain before and how, you miss playing for the guy and sometimes, in the hardest times of your life, the hardest parts of your day, you think to your different coaches and, you don't want to let them down or what would they say to you or what would they bark at you in these moments to get you going. And not just in the hard times, but in just the daily stuff, the daily grind of waking up every day, of going to work, of, picking up your kids or playing with, whatever you got to do, cooking dinner, just all the things that life is. And just like, yeah, I feel better prepared for life and all the many obstacles in it because of my experiences at Rio Hondo Prep, specifically playing football and coaching kids myself when I was in high school. So this is the Rio Hondo Prep football commercial, right? Year round here on the podcast, but just so grateful and so thankful for the experiences. And I'm glad I get to share them with you guys here on the Charge to Keep podcast. That'll wrap up our show for today. We'll be back next week. I am looking forward to you guys bringing another fun interview with for you guys next week on the podcast. Recording these at various times, usually on the weekend, sometimes late at night after work, just piecing them together. As you listen to them now, know that they were recorded weeks prior. Just kind of putting it all together to be able to have them ready to go and release in a timely manner. So again, a lot of fun interviews with my former coaches, maybe some other aspects of Rio Hondo Prep football from the past here in the next few weeks. But as we kind of get into mid-July or so, we'll talk a little bit more about the current team, and again, get some more content and footage for you guys of the guys practicing, the behind the scenes stuff, the meet the team and all those things. Talking to Coach Carson a little bit as well. Our 4th of July episode, which I believe will air the Friday. Is it after 4th of July? I think our 4th of July episode this year, similar to last year's with Coach BJ Jacobs, Coach BJ Jacobs, Navy SEAL BJ Jacobs last year for our July 4th episode. Got something similar to that planned for this year, but it's been a privilege and an honor to have some of my former coaches on here for the first few episodes here in June, as was my idea. July 5th. So our July 4th episode will air on July 5th. And who knows, maybe I will release that one a little early on Thursday rather than Friday night, just so if you're eating some s'mores and watching fireworks, that you can have the Charge to Keep podcast on in the background. That'll probably be a special release on July 4th. But all the other episodes throughout the summer will air Friday nights at 5 o'clock, as you, I'm sure, are accustomed to now, having listened to a few of them, and just kind of getting everybody in the rhythm and the routine of Friday Night Lights and Friday nights about 5 when we all get off work and are headed to the big game. So let's get ready, or stay ready, so we don't got to get ready, if you know what I mean. And Rio football will be here before you know it. Summer, the sun is shining, life is good, vacation time, relaxing a little bit. 4th of July around the corner, of course, and then after all that, after midsummer, it's going to be football practice time. We'll be hearing those pads popping and the cleats on grass running around very, very soon. And the anticipation and excitement will just continue to build here on the Charge to Keep podcast for another season of Rio Hondo Prep football as they strive for their 16th championship in school history. It'll be hard to repeat what we saw last year, but I'm up for it. Let's go. Let's put this content together. And let's encourage these young men to continue to do what they do and represent all of us so very well. It's been a privilege and an honor. Thanks again, Wally Ashby. We will see you next week, guys. And as always, no matter what you're doing, this is your friendly reminder to be humble in victory and gracious in defeat, because we always have a charge to keep.
A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live. And, O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give.